To the 70-odd schools that bring Carmen's road safety education to its students every single year and have been doing so for the past 24 years, I need no introduction. But to those new schools who have never heard Carmen's story or brought it to their students, my name is John Marr, and I bring Carmen's road safety education to years 10, 11 and 12 students every year. The COVID-19 virus has created a challenge for everyone, including myself, and I am passionate about bringing Carmen's story into the lives of students so that they can make valued decisions and be empowered never, ever to lose their lives on the roads like we lost Carmen, our youngest daughter, when she went to sleep at the wheel at 100 kilometres an hour, crashed into a tree and was killed. I would now like to take you on a brief excerpt of our story and what your students will hear. Ange went to church. Half an hour later, I borrowed Michelle, our eldest daughter's car, and I headed off to what I thought would be the cricket function. Little did I know, I was actually going to go to a car crash. And I went to my car crash in Michelle's car, the bottom one. As I was going into Axdale, I was in the 80 kilometre zone, slowing towards 60. I saw this four-wheel drive coming out of the 60 kilometre zone. It was only doing 60. I noticed it lose control, so I came to a complete stop on the highway and I sat there. Dipped down, the bull bar dug into the road and it shot the car up in the air. I lost complete sight of it above the roof line of my car, and the next thing it had landed upside down on the roof and bottom of my car and I was knocked unconscious. Next time I came to, an ambulance officer had been able to get in the back door of the car there. He said, "What's your name? How old are you? Do you know what day it is? Do you know what time it is? And do you know what's happened?" I answered all of those questions and he said, "Mate, I can't believe it, but I think you might be okay." I then said to him, "How are the people in the other car?" He said, "The young lady is deceased." The result of the car crash was that there was one death. I was really seriously injured. And I can tell you that my life, my family's lives and the lives of so many of our friends were changed forever from that day onwards. Did you either live or die in a car crash, 100% based on luck. And a car crash will be the most violent experience you will ever have. Emma Hayward was aged 18 years and 24 days. Emma had her licence for just 23 days. I was really quickly learning that a car crash is not just a car crash. A car crash is a game changer. It is a life changer. And far too often, it can be a life taker. But you know, don't you, it'll never happen to you. Of course not. But I'm going to tell you now just how dangerous the roads really are and how anything is possible. On the 18th of November 1995, just 2.5 years after I had my car crash in which poor Emma lost her life, Carmen, our beautiful youngest daughter, who had had her licence for just 3 months, was killed in a car crash. How can this happen to us? How can any family lose their child? I'll tell you how it happens and how easily it can happen. This is a photo of Michelle and Carmen. And I'm going to talk to you about this horrible Saturday morning when we lost Carmen. I was getting dressed in the bedroom and I heard Carmen toot as she went out the gate. Guys, just five short kilometres from home. This is what Michelle found. Thank God Carmen had dropped Carmen Trevine off at McDonald's at Kangaroo Flat. But can you believe that on the way home, that our beautiful little girl could go to sleep at the wheel at 100 kilometres an hour, crash into this tree, and Carmen killed herself on us. Michelle went running towards the car. She then said to the young policeman, "Is Carmen all right?" This 24-year-old policeman burst into tears. He said, "I'm really sorry, but your sister is dead." So far, this has all been about me and my family and Carmen. The rest of this presentation is 100% about you and your family. I want you all to look really closely at me up in the corner now. I want you to replace me. This is no longer John Marr here on this webinar. This is your dad right here. Or it may even be your amazingly brave mum telling next year's group of students how they lost you in a car crash and what they had to do next, because no family can avoid this. It then dawned on me. I have to ring Katrina, our second eldest daughter. She's 21 years old. She's the assistant manager of the second largest Bets and Bet shoe store in Australia. So Katrina comes to the phone, and before I could say anything, she says, "Dad, fancy you ringing me on a Saturday morning. I didn't even want to come to work today, Dad. This is sensational. You've made my day." I said, "Trina, I've got some really, really bad news to tell you. Trina, there's been a car accident. And Trina, I'm really sorry, it's Carmen. And Trina, Carmen is dead." I heard poor little Katrina saying, "No, Dad. No, Dad. No, Dad. Not Carmen, Dad. No, Dad. No." Then she dropped the phone in the Bets and Bet shoe store, and I could hear Katrina screaming at the top of her voice, "Carmen, Carmen, Carmen, Carmen." And I couldn't even put my arms around her to support her. You see, Carmen broke everyone's heart that day. This absolutely changed our lives. But this is a family's worst nightmare. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our beautiful Carmen.
Good evening, and I'm Carmen Marr for the second edition of the 10 o'clock news. Okay, now, as you can see, we are in a...
So what about my family's future? We now have a life without Carmen. And I can tell you what your family will miss the most about you, because this is what we miss the most about Carmen. Clearly, the thing that I miss the most about Carmen is that I can't give Carmen a cuddle. But here's a message through me from Carmen. And Carmen is telling you that the very second you see your mum today, you give your mum the biggest cuddle you have ever given your mum in your life. Tell your mum how much you love her. And when you finish cuddling your mum, step back, look your mum in the eyes and say, "Mum, I promise you this. I will never do to you what Carmen has done to her mum." And when you see your dad today, give your dad a monster cuddle. This is our family now. This was taken on Christmas Day. Why are there so many deaths and injuries on our roads? There's always been speed on our roads, always.
One of the victims, a 21-year-old tradie, was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time when a speeding car full of teenagers smashed into him.
A Nissan Skyline burns on Ferntree Gully Road, its driver dead after being hit from the side by a speeding Mazda with 4 teenagers on board. The driver who hit him, a 19-year-old man from Bayswater North, escaped with pelvic injuries. He lay on the nature strip while paramedics tried to save his friends on the back seat. One died later in hospital. Another is still critical.
I now come to the part of the presentation where I am incredibly passionate. Guys, in Victoria you have to do 120 hours before you can get your licence. I'd like to bring that into perspective for you. 120 hours is just 5 days of learning to drive a 1.5 tonne motor vehicle, and those 5 days are spread out over 2 years. If you can get your mum and dad to teach you to drive for 500 hours before you go to your licence, and in all weather conditions and day and night, that's what you need if you expect to survive the deadly roads that we all have to drive on. So Carmen has a Facebook page, which is absolutely fantastic. And here's the piece of gold that we have. Normally, Carmen's bookmark would be handed out to all of the students at a school presentation. It's a bit difficult when we're on a webinar. But on the back, it has the wording that Carmen put on my Get Well card when I was in hospital after my crash. I was in intensive care. My girls thought they might have lost their dad in a car crash. Carmen was just 15 years old when she wrote these words on the Get Well card that she gave to me. She said, "Dad, I love you. I love you more than anything. The feeling of darkness, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of not having a father nearly broke my heart. But today, it's my family's and my pleasure to gift Carmen to all of you. Take Carmen into your hearts. Take her with you as you travel the roads. Think of Carmen, think of your family, and think how important it is that you are the safest road user you can possibly be. Due to the impact of the COVID-19 virus this year, it is impossible for me to get to every school. I have already done 7 webinars. 4 of them went to Queensland. 3 of those schools have come back to me and they said that they would like to have Carmen's story in webinar form again next year. There is no need for me to travel to their schools, which is amazing. Their feedback from the students and the families was incredible. Can I recommend to you that you bring Carmen's story to your students in the form of a webinar this year? But your students will still get the full impact of Carmen's story. Your students must hear a road safety presentation this year again, and their lives may depend on it. And the best one, and I'm biased, but the best one is Carmen's road safety.